Thor takes his talents, whatever he has left, and his hammer to Cleveland. Matthew Stafford says the Rams did want to restructure his contract. And short-term, Justin Herbert's new contract actually helps the Chargers with their salary cap woes. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is July 27th, 2023. I can't wait to stop working in Oklahoma. That's going to be 9 more days out here before life finally gets to normal again. What keeps me sane is talking LA sports with you guys. And if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that and it lets you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And comment. There's always interesting stuff, good stuff to talk about when it comes to LA. So before we go through the news and notes, we'll look at the scoreboard. Yesterday, James Outman goes 2 for 4 with an RBI, but in all candor, the Dodgers just didn't have it. They got smoked by Toronto, 8-1. Having said that, the Dodgers are still 3 games up in the NL West. They also made a trade, which we're going to talk about in a moment. In addition to that, in Leagues Cup action, Leon winds up shutting out the Galaxy. They edged them. It was 1-0. Leagues Cup is this goofy little tournament that both Liga MX and the MLS have stopped their seasons for. It's goofy. I don't like it. Whatever. But for the Galaxy, they still have a chance to advance out of group stage. They are currently tied with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Both teams play Sunday. The winner gets to advance. Now, if in the case of a tie, the tiebreaker would be goal differential. And if the goal differential is the same, then it goes to most goals scored. Meanwhile, today, Indiana is playing the Sparks at 12:30. Despite a just horrifying 8-game losing streak, the Sparks are 1 game out of a playoff berth in the WNBA. But let's get to the Dodgers because they made a trade. Look, nobody's perfect, right? When Noah Syndergaard first signed his 1-year deal with the Dodgers, he just couldn't stop raving about the Dodgers coaches. Noah Syndergaard was once, when he was a young man, he was Thor with the big flowing blonde locks. He was just flaming guys, and he's stumbled onto rough times, and he was like, you know what? I know these Dodgers coaches. They're just going to wring that talent right back out of my arm, and I'm just going to hit 100 miles an hour whenever I feel like it, and I'm just going to be flaming guys all over again. Yeah, it didn't work. Totally didn't work. They wind up trading him yesterday for Ahmad Rosario, a shortstop of Cleveland. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Because I have to be frank with you. I don't hate Noah Syndergaard. But the fall from grace from what was once one of baseball's most intimidating pitchers, it blows my mind. He came here desperately looking for the intellects at the Dodgers to try to figure out how to get his career back on track. He leaves having the worst strikeout rate of his entire career. He leaves with a 7.16 ERA. He left on the injured list with alleged blisters on his hand. Before he was put on the injured list with these alleged blisters, he was literally talking about giving up a hypothetical firstborn son, anything, to be able to pitch like he could just a few years ago. That's how far he had fallen. Last we had heard of him, he was just basically shuffling up and down the beaches, you know, smoking hookah and chanting at a pile of prayer crystals. So yeah, the fact that the Dodgers got anything for this pile of blonde rubble, and I hate saying it, I don't hate the guy. He's been destroyed, and the Dodgers still got something for him. Therefore, the trade, in a sense, is a win for LA. But having said that, I'm not going to sit there and try and tell you that Ahmad Rosario is the answer at shortstop either. He's not elite. He's not as impressive as, say, Tim Anderson. He's not going to remind you of Corey Seager or any of the other number of studs who have played shortstop for the Dodgers over the last 5 or 6 years. But the Dodgers have had a massive hole at shortstop this year. Rosario is just a 273 hitter, which is It's not wow, it's But he's replacing Miguel Rojas, who was hitting .221. That's a 50-point upgrade. That does matter. So what the Dodgers, in my opinion, are doing now at shortstop is they're throwing quantity at the problem instead of quality. Dave Roberts now has 4 guys that he could throw out there at shortstop at any given time. It could be Rojas. It could be Rosario. It could be Kike Hernandez or Chris Taylor. So that's their solution right now. And I would also add that Rosario is a right-handed bat. The last couple of days with Hernandez and now Rosario, the Dodgers have added right-handed bats to a lineup that was too left-handed heavy. So the Dodgers win the trade, but it's not exactly something that's going to make you stop having sex with your girlfriend and start bursting into applause over the Dodgers front office. Speaking of front offices, ESPN's Buster Olney reports that the Angels front office has pulled Shohei Ohtani off the trade market. This matters to the Dodgers. Obviously, the odds of them landing Ohtani were slim to none. Artie Moreno's ego wouldn't allow it to happen. But the idea that Dodger fans were hoping for was that Andrew Friedman would just back up this huge truck, right? And just have it just open up, and every major prospect that the Dodgers had would just spill into Anaheim. And from that, they would get Shohei Ohtani. It's not happening. The Angels think that they can make a playoff run. And also, the Angels did a second thing. They became buyers. They traded for Chicago White Sox starter Lucas Giolito. That was a player that allegedly, the Dodgers were interested in. Ryan Sheriff, last seen with the Boston Red Sox, signed a minor league contract with LA. He's the second former Boston reliever to come to LA. Ryan Brazier, he's been kind of iffy with the Dodgers. He does strike out a lot of people. He has 18 strikeouts in 21 innings. His ERA is horrifying, though. It's 7.29. But I would say that, to his credit, Brazier has not allowed a run in his last 8 appearances. Could this be something that works out for Sheriff? No idea. They also send Justin Bruihl to AAA Oklahoma City, call up Tyson Miller. Miller has thrown 3 scoreless innings in Oklahoma City since he was acquired from Milwaukee. Bruihl has gone up and down from LA to Oklahoma 5 times this year. 5 times. We're kind of, sort of, getting clarity on the Rams situation with Matthew Stafford. Obviously, he's still on the team. Obviously, the Rams want him at quarterback. But there were stories that were starting to paint this idea that the Rams actually were trying to tear down the entire team right down to the nub. The original story that had been surfacing over the last few weeks was that the Rams wanted to restructure. Stafford said no, so the Rams sought trade offers. There are a ton of half-truths involved with this story. The scribes did not get it right. Partially right. They didn't get it right. The Rams took calls. Other teams called and asked if they could have Matthew Stafford, and the Rams said no. So the Rams weren't looking to trade Matthew Stafford. Teams were calling the Rams. That's from Sean McVay. However, Matthew Stafford says, in contradiction to what team COO Kevin DeMoff said, Matthew Stafford said, yes, the Rams did, in fact, want to restructure his contract. Now, DeMoff, about a week or so ago, said, no, we weren't trying to restructure his contract. We could have walked away from it, had no salary cap damage whatsoever. Whoopsie. They did apparently try to restructure Matthew Stafford's contract. Now, for his part, Stafford is saying that he'll keep the contract conversations private, in-house. He doesn't want to talk about it again because what's done is done. He's still a Ram. He's not going anywhere. Also with the Rams, Michael Hecht said that his move from defensive line to outside linebacker led to a new training strategy. Quote, at a 3-tech position, you do a lot of twitch, get off the ball strategies. This offseason, I focus specifically on top end speed and running more distance because I'll have to drop into coverage and run a bit more, unquote. Now, I tell you this because it tells me that the Rams really, really like Kobe Turner. Why else would you take another defensive lineman and try to teach him a new position if you weren't going to give Kobe Turner those snaps? And besides that, he'll be next to Aaron Donald, so Kobe Turner theoretically might be more productive there than Michael Hecht. It also tells me that the Rams aren't necessarily believing that the 3 defensive ends that they drafted are all going to make the team. In other words, Hecht is the insurance policy in case 1 or 2 of those draft picks flame out. The Justin Herbert deal, oddly enough, saves the Chargers money in the salary cap in certain years. Yes, it averages $52.5 million a year, but that's an average. He's not getting paid that much every year. For example, next year, the Chargers were $60 million over the 2024 salary cap. With the way that Herbert structured his contract, it's actually going to shave $10 million off of that debt for next year, off of that salary cap problem. Now, how it does it, I'm going to be honest with you, I have no bleeping clue. I am not a quote-unquote capologist. And I will agree that, yeah, $50 million over the salary cap is still a hell of a lot, but it is going to help. It's better than 60. Herbert's cap hits actually start to spike starting in 2025. For example, in 2028, the cap hit on Justin Herbert's contract alone is $70 million. Wow. Now keep in mind, that's not necessarily the end of the world for the Chargers either, because every single year the NFL has increased its salary cap except for one, and that was the COVID year. Brandon Staley says, when comparing his former boss, Rams coach Sean McVay, to new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, quote, the parallels were crazy, unquote. He says Moore is a competitor with an energizing force about him. Staley told The Athletic he took note of Moore in his debut as the Rams defensive coordinator. LA played the Cowboys. Staley was the defensive coordinator for the Rams, Moore the offensive coordinator over in Dallas. Quote, he makes it easy for his guys, but he makes it tough for you. That's what good coaches do, unquote. LAFC has re-signed defender Eddie Segura through next year. The 26-year-old Colombian spent 4 years with LAFC, but he tore a right ACL in 2021. He hasn't really played a lot since. So while I do question the depth of LAFC's midfield, I'm not going to question the depth of their back line. I'm not going to sit there and tell you that they're a bunch of killers. The back line, though, does seem pretty good. I don't think a lot is going to be asked of Segura in his return to the black and gold. Not on this particular roster. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Tell me if Syndergaard leaving is as big of a relief as you think it is, or if the Dodgers, in fact, have solved their shortstop problem. Let me know what you think about the Rams situation with Matthew Stafford. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.